afternoon, everyone. It's my privilege to be here. Thanks for having me. Okay, so I'll be talking to you today about the question, can one make ethics a core component of science and technology education? But I'll only get to this question in a roundabout way. Let me first make the disclaimer that I'm not primarily an educator, but the chief scientist, as mentioned, the chief scientist of the IBM Research Lab that happens to be located on this wonderful campus. Secondly, on the face of it, science and technology are subjects that seem to be independent of ethical considerations. There's nothing particularly moral or immoral about calculus or how to program a computer. That said, I am taking on this topic because I find philosophy and ethical questions impossible to keep at arm's length. I'm a mathematician by training, and though I work in the technology industry, I'm skeptical about the ultimate value of most technology. If you are familiar with the term, I'm something of a Luddite. I also come from the West, from the United States, where we have accepted technological advancement and accepted a life of acquiring more and more things. This acquisitiveness has led to a certain disassociation of one person from another. Although ethics are battled over in a perverse and self-righteous manner in the political arena, since we interact with one another in such a disembodied way, generally on our phones or over social media, we do not discuss the great ethical questions of our day in a very direct way. However, when you have students in your classrooms, you do have this chance for direct engagement. Although I find that Kenyans are also gravitating to disembodied engagement, and sometimes their phones are like another bodily appendage, things are not as bad in this respect as they are in the West. We make more time for each other here than in the West. I have noticed that we walk together to lunch in a relaxed and eager to engage and be together way, not in the rushed and businesslike way we tend to spend our lunch hours in the West. Also, business meetings are more social. You care to get to know each other more than we do in the West. Therefore, I think Kenyans are more generally Africans can take the lead in taking on ethical questions. Ethics is a bit like scientific research, in at least one respect. The questions are more important than the answers. Make sure you are always asking the important questions. When you take your lunchtime walks together, ask hard but interesting questions of one another. Circling back to the question of whether ethics can play a central role in science and technology education. When I was an undergraduate at Dartmouth College in the United States in the late 1970s and early 1980s, ethics was discussed in only one of my mathematics classes. I was taking a probability course from a relatively famous probabilist named John Lamperti, who was very much influenced by America's ignoble attempts to save the world for democracy in Vietnam. In the last class of the semester, the professor paused to reflect on how science could either be put to great good or great evil, and how high-paying positions in the defense industry would be waiting for the best and brightest of us. He told us to think hard about the legacy we wanted to leave. He did not answer any questions for us. It was the most memorable final class I've ever had, and obviously the memory is distinct to this day, approximately 38 years later. Perhaps in small ways, that class and that challenge from Professor Lamperti left me with are reasons I chose to come to Kenya and practice my science here. Thus, I suggest that if you are so inclined, either at the beginning of your science and technology classes or at the end, spend an hour to pose one or two provocative ethical questions to your students. If technology is used to exploit human frailties, or to wedge us apart from one another, to nudge us towards tribalism, or to a self-centered form of nationalism, is that what we want our legacy to be? We should ask our students these kinds of questions, and I should ask my employees. They should also know that we're asking these questions of ourselves. Thank you.
As for me, I will serve.